we are the ones that wanna choose. Always wanna play, but you never wanna lose.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in. So Andrew will not be joining us tonight. He's taking a 1-week hiatus, so be sure to hit him up and yell at him. But in his absence, I do have my buddy Andy Kennedy, who you all know, helping me out on the back end. Yes, that's what she said. I know, Andy, you're dying to say that. In his absence, so my blind ass can actually, still have content shown on the screen. So thank you, Andy. Tonight I have a gentleman I have been following for quite some time, and I'm glad to finally have him. Marcus Cage, who is Young Morpheus, who is also from the YouTube show Political Matrix with his comrade Chris. So thanks so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's definitely my pleasure to be on here. I've definitely, going back to 3 years or so that I've had my own channel, and about 4 years that I've been doing commentary. I've definitely heard Joy's name quite a bit over the years, and so it's kind of interesting. Like we finally, get on a platform together and get to talk about some things, and I'm just really excited, and my honor to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. We've been talking for about 10-15 minutes, and I'm like, yes, I love this guy. This is great. Because people on Twitter, but trust me, when they join you, it's a very different thing, and you don't always connect with everyone and stuff, but I'm digging it. So, so tonight we were actually talking about the rally yesterday, of course, because especially on Twitter, that's what everyone's talking about the most, understandably. And Marcus actually covered an LA sister rally, which I was saying I did not know there were any sister rallies whatsoever until last night. And unfortunately, it really wasn't publicized, and I think there could have been more rallies if they were publicized and also attended more. But Marcus, do you want to kind of share what your experience was at the LA Sister Rally?
Yeah, that and I wanted to, comment, dovetail on what you said there. They did not get a lot of attention, and I actually tagged the main organizers of everything in the main rally that was in DC and say, yo, is this actually even going to happen as a rally? Because I'm not hearing about it. It doesn't look like a lot of people. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to go anyway, even if it's not that many people. What's the worst that can happen? It's not very far from me. I can always just head back home and then do something else. But it turned out to be an actual rally going on there. It was a little bit different than the DC one. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but you guys can check my channel and see it there. And it's more of a protest in which I feel like things like this should be able to be organically different in their different, cities or surroundings. I believe San Francisco had one also, and I think a handful of other cities, and they all had them on that Saturday, and there was not very much coverage of them at all, even from the main rally, which that's kind of problematic. But I get how, if you're not an organizer and organizing these things, you might have good intentions, but a lot of things might get missed also.
Absolutely. And we were talking about that because, everybody knows I've organized like a couple dozen, actions over years. And so because of that, I do have, experience, but also things that I've learned that I know should be done or maybe aren't the best route. And a few criticisms I've had from day one about the DC March is, number one, with the anticipated crowd, they definitely should have had ASL interpreters without question to make it inclusive. Number two, there should have been more speakers than just people who were well known. We should have heard from people who have been affected directly by war, be it, disabled veterans or, people who work in VA, Syrian refugees, Haitian refugees. I mean, like, just people who know the trauma of war directly, who are never given a voice. They should be given a voice at things like this. And then my other criticism, which I am getting absolutely railed for, is that there should have been mutual aid. I did not know this was a controversial thing, but I'm getting hateful DMs and everything. So what I said was that, and I mean, we do mutual aid after our actions. Like our last Medicare for All action, we fed, unhoused and poor people in the projects. We gave them food, like we cooked them fish and chicken and gave them nice hot meals. And like, but that has nothing to do with Medicare for All. You know what I mean? It's just, it's still, you do aid, you help people. Like when you have a group of people, you also do something. And I said, with all of these people, they expected that. So imagine the kind of difference they could have made if they say, bring a jacket, bring a blanket, bring gloves, socks, a canned good, anything to give to one of the thousands of homeless veterans literally in the city right around where we are. That would have been huge. And just saying that, like, I am being freaking railroaded, just like, and it's crazy. So it sounds like where you went was more organic and had speakers, had people there that are more like, that were more, touched on a personal level. Like you shared that you met a gentleman from Syria. What was that like? What did you guys talk about?
Yeah, the organizer, the main organizer over there was a Syrian American, and he had just recently come back from Syria about 6 months ago, and so a lot of the people who were at the LA rally were Syrians, and they were talking a lot about the different effects of a war and how it's happening over there and how that's affecting them, the military-industrial complex, and it also focused on how even some of this coverage and relief aid that is going to these victims of the earthquake, how much of it is not going to the Syrian people, and how that's a big gripe and a problem that is not being addressed nearly enough and should be focused on. Like you said, also, being a I'm a disabled veteran also with combat experience, and I'm one person, and I feel like more people like me. It doesn't have to be me, but have people who have that kind of experience that I've had to go there. Maybe some of the people who have experience with losing, or just soldiers who, like, I guess a little background is, after I got out of the military, I joined Vote Vets and Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans Against War. And that started a lot of my early activism against, the whole the war movement and military industrial complex. Because a lot of times, like when I went in '98, you don't learn this stuff. The internet was really not putting a lot of that information out there. So unless you came from people or a circle group of people who knew a lot about this type of stuff, you didn't know. And then factoring in, how the inner city is like preyed on by the military. And, at that time, and I'm pretty sure Joy, how they push college. You have to go to college. If you don't go to college, you're basically not going to do anything. And so that importance put on college, and knowing you don't have money to go to college, you have a lot of Black and brown people who end up getting forced into that military for college experience, and for college money. And I got over there and I saw things were not what I thought they were, and got a rude awakening to a lot of things, even living in Europe for a while. And so through my experience in high school, having our city was a sister city to Sarajevo, we had a lot of refugees coming from Bosnia and Kosovo and ethnic Albanians and stuff in my high school. And so that made me see this from a more empathetic point of view. So definitely speaking to the Syrian gentleman who was the organizer and some of the other Syrians who were there, it was really kind of cathartic for me to, even though I don't have much of a platform, to be able to let their voice get out there and somebody actually hear them more and more. And hopefully that even if they just kind of, you can chop all the parts of me out of it, just put their, viewpoints out there, because more people need to hear what's going on and hear their perspectives.
Absolutely. And I think that was my main, criticism, not just that there were no like unknown people, but the fact that is what really creates people to be anti-war, listening to those stories. I was a huge Obama fan for 8 years. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't get it. But then my cousin, who had severe PTSD after 3 tours in Iraq, committed suicide a week before his 27th birthday and the month before his wedding. And I woke up. So that personal, knowing the story, my aunt told me, that is what woke me up. And sharing stories like that is what wakes other people up. So that's more, if you want to have celebrities, awesome. It brings people out. It's great. And it's awesome to show that everyone cares about this issue, but it shouldn't be just about that.
True.
So I like that your rally was more kind of organic and stuff. And it definitely should have had more coverage, for sure.
And what you said about Obama, I like to just put that out there. A lot of people don't realize it's not very long. Not everybody has come to the perspectives that they are like overnight. Or have had them forever. And so we have to kind of give room for people to come along and try to inform them so that they can see the perspective and maybe change their viewpoints instead of necessarily going with the approach of demonization. I literally was a volunteer for Obama. I door knocked for Obama. I made phone calls to probably a lot of you guys all over the country. And I defended Obama hardcore, even though in the back of my mind, he wasn't doing it. Was like, oh, well, the Republicans are doing this and he's being stopped from doing that. And this is what's going on. And people are just tying his hands. And it came to a point where I just had to listen to, even though I knew some of these right wingers, and I know somebody put in the chat earlier about libertarians, some of these right wingers were demonizing Obama for other reasons that had nothing to do with, it basically had to do with because he was a black president. I felt a need to defend him on that, even though he was flawed in many areas. And because they came from such that negative viewpoint, and this is something that I put out there to right wingers, critique honestly and fairly, and then you can get people like me and people on the left to actually agree with you, and then you can have some, kind of get somewhere with the argument instead of, oh, he wore a tan suit, stupid stuff like that.
Yes, seriously. Every year on his birthday, or even now President's Day, his biggest tragedy or during his presidency was that tan suit. And I just responded, hey, you got to look sharp when you're droning kids. That's
exactly. And when you're droning kids and deporting Haitians and becoming deporter in chief,
Yep. I'm sure he wore a nice outfit to Flint too. That, it's not that he was great. It's that you refuse to see he was not great. That's the problem. And man, what a disappointment. But then
Standing Rock.
Oh, we're going to see how it plays out. That's what I'm saying.
It was a lot with Obama, but because of the people already came at him with a predisposed anger towards him for other things, it made it hard to take their criticism seriously. It's just like when I would hear a Republican and they would say the Democrat Party, knowing that's not proper grammar. It's Democratic. You're intentionally doing that because I can't remember who it was, but he came back and said, you always say Democrat so you can emphasize the rat part. And it's like when you do childish things like that, it makes it hard to hear your legitimate criticisms both ways.
Right. I think I feel what you're saying, because like Ilhan Omar, she gets a lot of disgusting attacks for being Muslim. And I like, as a politician, don't get me started, but like I'm always gonna go hard and be like, how dare you say that? That's disgusting. But because it's not fair. Talk to her about like the way she votes and stuff like that. That's what you should be focusing on, actual issues. But yeah, you're right. It's hard to for some people to separate, and I think it's lazy. Honestly, I think a lot of it's just lazy. I think, and it's part of being online.
Oh, I want to say shout out to everybody. I see Miguel, Lady Alex, Lucky, a handful of others out there. I think I saw Applejack out there. I mean, well, on my show, I love to, you know, say what's up to the audience, get them all involved.
Oh no, I wish I could see that who's here. No, I love it.
I know. I mean, and I'm pretty sure the audience they know that also, so they don't hold you. They don't hold that against you.
For sure. Yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love reading the comments afterwards. I absolutely love it. And one of my favorite things, I don't know if you're like this, but I'm such a dork that one of my favorite things is when I get off the air and I can read the comments on my little thing. I love so much when they say hi to each other. They're like, hi, Vegan, hi, Lucky, and they say it back, and I'm just like,
yep,
oh my
shout
God.
out, Vegan. Yeah, I mean, I always tell everybody when you come in the chat, hey, just come in, say hey to each other. You don't even have to say hi to me. Some of them, they have their own individual conversations going on, and I don't hold that against them, because I can listen to this conversation and have multiple conversations. I mean, at work, I listen to like 2 or 3 things at the same time. So I mean, it's not hard to do that for, you know, intelligent sentient beings, which I believe we all are. So, you know, I just wanted to put that up. Yeah, I noticed somebody said they watch Sabby's channel, lots of libertarian. Yeah, we can't focus on, and I know that when you're dealing with some of these people, it's just they have a certain way that they've been accustomed to running their things. And like Joy brought up, the ASL, that's something that I was like, wow, that's a really good point. I did not think about that. Mutual aid is something that I haven't really gotten worked on and organized, and other people are far ahead of me on that and understand how to do that far better than me. And so I don't, I haven't done a lot of that myself. I mean, I've volunteered to help myself, but never organize anything. And so I think if that's not something that's in your wheelhouse, speaking to like people who organize that rally, then bring in people who do those things, and you can help combine the efforts and say, okay, well, we're not going to stand over your shoulder. We'll let you guys do that and see what kind of other ways you can help. And we'll do our thing over here. And maybe some of the people, if all you are bringing is celebrity and just bringing attention, then that may be your wheelhouse. That might be what you need to do. But it's a matter of trying to bring in and make these movements, or even if it's just a singular event, you know, as strong as possible. My viewpoint I come from is I believe we're inching ever closer towards World War III. And if you're a person who is concerned with that, then I feel that that has to be focused on. And it can't be, you can't let World War III just slip up on you all of a sudden. It's here. Because once you unleash that Pandora's box, you really can't go backwards from it. And so I feel like, though there's speakers on there which I have my problems and issues with. There's speakers on there which I do like and consider colleagues and friends, which I work with on occasion. But if we're looking at, you know, because I tell people, as somebody who's seen war up close and personal, when a World War III happens, it won't be like Afghanistan or Iraq. It won't be something that's all the way over there. If it's World War III, it is going to be something that is going to be impactful on every single person over here. We are going to feel it. You are going to have people who will lose their jobs. You are going to have maybe ratcheting up and working for the military industrial complex, whether you want to or not. You're going to have, all kind of your life disrupted in ways which we haven't even fathomed. And I think for some people, they might not gather that severity of it because it's been so long since a world war has happened that they don't realize how it transforms your whole nation. And I think that it brings on a certain level of lack of care, lack of concern to others. And then if you think people who are maybe who will fall up under like different issues, say that they might need to do dialysis on a regular basis, a couple times a week, maybe they do it at home every night, I'm not sure, or any of these different things, whether they are hooked up to machines. If a situation like that comes, it's going to be far more impactful than the pandemic was. And so I feel like that's important. And being my expertise being having to do with weapons and stuff, Joy, I'll ask you two questions. Do you know what Russia, well, I guess two questions in one. Russia and China, what their strongest weapons are?
I'm guessing it's going to be something like really minuscule that I don't know, propaganda.
No, China's number one thing is intercontinental ballistic missiles. Russia has the most, but China literally actually sent ICBM through American airspace, and it wasn't picked up. Our generals literally had a heart attack about 6 months ago because they realized that China had the capability to be able to launch a missile to mainland US.
Wow.
Like, okay, well, but they won't do that because we can launch missiles back. Well, Russia, their number one technology, which nobody in the world is equal to them at, is what is it called? EMP weapons. That's electromagnetic pulse. Electromagnetic pulse shuts down power grids. So if our power grids are shut down, then that means NORAD is not up to do anything. That means that we can't scramble jets to launch back. And that means that the United States is a sitting duck while China is able to launch away at will, leaving the United States probably more vulnerable than it's ever been. And that's the reason why I say that, World War III it needs to be taken far more seriously than I think some people take it.
Yeah, I think people are already desensitized to that, World War III. They're kind of using it in passing at this point. And, I saw, it wasn't an article, it was just a statement earlier today, which said that Zelensky stated that if China joins with Russia, that essentially it's going to cause World War III. It essentially was threatening.
They already are. China and Russia are already joined together. And I just read a report about they are doing war exercises with South Korea. Not South Korea, but South Africa. And so a lot of people know about BRICS as far as the economic system: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now they're starting to move that into a military front. And North Korea is involved in there also. And also there's been, I think I heard last, about another 30 countries that have put in applications to join BRICS.
So, this is kind of a very utopian question, but what do you think we could do as people, besides, organize and such? What do you think we could do as, people in the US to kind of prepare or try to stop, or, what do you think would be the best route for us to take at this point?
The best route I could say would be to try the best to get awareness all the way up to the top levels. And people need to say, yo, I'm not saying that Systemic racism is not an issue. I'm not saying that Medicare for all is not a valid and important issue. I'm not saying any of these things are not, but we need to stop this before, we need to stop this so that we can be able to fight for these other policies that are important. And so it needs to be a focal point, and like the funding to Ukraine would be where I would spearhead most of the energy, because this funding to Ukraine is what's fueling most of this. By funding Ukraine, it's using Ukraine as a proxy war. And that proxy war, which is going on, whether you feel like, oh, well, Putin shouldn't have came in, whatever, it's not being taken the way people feel it should be taken. Russia is not going to back down on this, and Ukraine is definitely not going to win on this. That's something that I don't think a lot of people grasp with these politicians who are funneling this money. This proxy war, which is going on with Ukraine, is no different than what happened with Jordan not very long ago, which happened with Poland shortly after the breakup of the USSR. Not very different than what's happened with Cuba, which, went into all these push and pulls back and forth, going all the way back to Afghanistan back in '79 and into Vietnam. All of this has been this proxy war, basically the West against Russia. And now what's happened is it's starting to bubble to a head, because now the buffer zones of NATO having a separation, a physical barrier, is starting to be eroded away, where NATO's at the point where they can literally walk straight across the border. Is getting closer to them walking across the borders into Russia. And we would not want the Russians literally in Canada and Mexico. We wouldn't want that. We wouldn't want their weapon systems there. And this is the same calculation, like me and Chris talked about it. What is it? Congressman Richie Torres, where he got, people came after him about him funding Ukraine. And some of the other people that I've heard that they're still feeling, I hope, I hope that some of the people don't take this the wrong way, but Marianne Williamson, where she was kind of feeling like, well, Russia is doing this and doing that. Oh, bless you. Bless you. I get that they might feel that Putin is the bad guy and the evil or whatever, but is World War III worth, trying to push back against who you guys feel is the bad guy? That would be my question for these politicians. Is it worth it?
Absolutely, completely valid. And I know people have trepidation criticizing Marianne in front of me, but honestly,
well, no, it's more what's his name? Neil's algorithm. He's a follower of.
Oh, he's in here,
and he's and I know that he's really big on Marianne Williamson, and I'm not trying to hurt the young kids' feeling. I feel like the younger generation, I want them to be optimistic. I want them to be positive. I don't want to be the older, the older generation, crapping on their hopes like I felt people did with us when we were pushing for Bernie.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I've had many talks with Neo, and I've had many talks with Marianne about, the foreign policy issues.
Well, and I would grill her in a respectful manner. I don't believe in bringing somebody on to browbeat them and be all rude to them, but I would just ask some questions and then lay out definitely, okay, well, give your answer. I have no problem with it. I saw yours. In my assessment, I could be wrong. It could just be her style. I felt she was a little aggressive when I felt some questions that you were asking her weren't. I felt you were asking in fairness, and felt she got a little more defensive than I think was necessary.
Really?
But that's just my take. That's just my take. I mean, I don't know her like that.
So I didn't. Yeah, and it's possible. I refuse to watch shows back of myself. I'm like, oh,
it's hard. I do it. It's hard. I'm like, oh, I wish I would have said that. I wish I would have said this differently.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm like,
especially my debates.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. So yeah, all good. No, these are things I've definitely talked about before. But I mean, I'm telling you, she would absolutely come on your show, and I can tell her to hit you up if you're down.
I mean, yeah, I mean, we'll put it out there, and then I guess I'll send her a message also. And then if she'd like to come on and just lay out her viewpoints, I leave it like this. Anybody who comes on to my show, I leave it for the audience to make their own decisions from any of the information from me or from the host. So I don't tell anybody who they should support, who they should be against, this and that. I just say how I view things. And I have my particular views, so you guys please forgive me for that.
Screw that shit. Everybody knows I'm unabashedly savage, and I don't hold back. No, it's all good. You've been amazing. Andy, I think, we've kind of taken over the show with discussion, but it's been so good. Can you show, so the first topic is obviously going to be East Palestine. And I do want to mention before I forget, I do have two gentlemen coming on next Monday who live in East Palestine and have been documenting with video and photographs of everything they see in their yards, from their parks, and in their home, unfortunately. So Andy, if you want to bring up that first thing.
It says Tanya Snyder is 150 cars too long for a freight train, especially one carrying hazardous materials, to operate safely. My latest at Politico. And this is the article we're seeing here on the screen.
Yeah, so it's like, 150 cars? That's insane.
Yeah.
That is insane. And before I even get into that, so this is, I don't know if this is conspiracy theories. I don't know, or if it's just like me asking an obvious question.
I hope it is. I hope it is. Give us conspiracy theory. I love it.
Why is East Palestine right by Pittsburgh? The Pittsburgh railroad strike happened, and now there's train explosions. Like,
I don't know. That's an interesting one. I didn't really put that together and think about it, but that's
yeah, because I'm in Pennsylvania, so I know Pittsburgh is right by East Palestine. And Jenna, I see Jenna's Abby. She's in the comments. She's in Pittsburgh, so so yeah, it's so close, and it just happened so shortly after. And I think it's kind of, well, regardless if it's related or not, I think it's very evident that, people are overworked, and, there are not the regulations on these trains that they were asking for, at the very least. But yeah, so you haven't thought about that or heard anyone say anything? I guess I am a conspiracy theorist.
Well, wait a minute. Trust me. If I am a conspiracy theorist, I really go in with the conspiracies on my show, or our show. Don't want to forget about Mr. Cy Lawson over there. But I look at it like there is a little conspiracy and a little just weird coincidence, but you can actually look back to some of these decisions about cutting regulations, whether it's been under Biden, whether it's under Trump, whether it's been stuff that happened under Obama administration. I'm not even saying that the president's had anything to do with this in particular, but I'm talking about Congress, the stuff which Congress is either allowed or not held up, going back to easily, I want to say, back to Clinton, that you can see specific laws where they changed the speed that they're allowed to go, that they chose not to do the braking. And the braking thing kind of reminds me a whole lot of the baffle thing which we had with the BP oil spill. If they would have just put that baffle on, that would have cost like $150,000. They would have literally saved billions of dollars. And it's the same thing here. You have a $50,000 brakes, or like 500,000. I'm probably way off on the numbers, between 50 and 500. But anyway, if they would have just did this, it could make a massive difference in saving lives. Another thing they didn't do is they didn't want to put the that they're carrying toxic chemicals on the sides of the trains and not putting those placards on there. That means that the local officials who live in that area who might say, "Whoa, wait a minute, you're transporting what through here? And at what speeds are you doing this? Hell no." So more than likely, some of these local committees and whether they're aldermen or councilmen or whatever would be like, no, 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 no. You're going to slow the train down to about 30 miles an hour. When you creep through here, you're not taking that dangerous crap through flying through our area. And by taking those placards off and stuff like that and making it harder for local municipalities to know what you're carrying through their areas, you're just constantly making things more dangerous.
Absolutely. I didn't even think of that. That's a really great point. So that's, and Biden denied giving them another check. Locally, they got $1,000, and Biden declined giving them any additional aid. But I think the thing that's getting so lost on people is the fact that these families have been effectively forced into hotels, and some of them will not go home, which is probably the right thing to do. And they're in a hostage situation where if you don't have money to get a hotel, now what? You become unhoused because you fear for your health and your safety going home. I saw on the news clip today, they're like, oh, you should have people inspect it before you go home. With what money? With what money? And then they're like, you should go to a doctor first. What money? Like, people don't just have a savings account because they expect, these people to be so careless and to be subjected to this shit. And people are going to become unhoused for this. They are going to become sicker than they even were going to in the beginning because they're too afraid to go to a doctor because they can't afford the bills. And there's so many underlying issues on top of this besides, all these disgusting things. And Andy, if you want to put up the 1881A slide I put there. So there is actually this precedent set in Libby, Montana. And what it is that this town had asbestos in their air. And because of it, they rallied together and got them to give them 100% covered immediate health care, like what we talk about for Medicare for all, like this entire city. And they've had it for years. Now, because of that precedent, Biden could have given it to all of us because of the pandemic. So for the past 3 years, we could have all had 100% free and immediate health care.
Yep.
He did not because he doesn't care. But this is also something that is applicable to East Palestine and its surroundings. So these people are being subjected to this shit, and they don't even know that they could have free immediate health care right now. So I'm trying to educate as many people as possible. And I know my audience is probably freaking sick of me saying it, but this message needs to be told to people. They need to know that, speak up. These people need immediate health care. We're not going to know a lot of these effects until 10, 15 years down the line.
Yeah, I mean, we all those of us who grew up with Aaron Brockovich, in our memory.
Yeah.
I mean, she found out a lot of this stuff that was happening to these people because of all these people were complaining about it literally years later. And I mean, this is something which has to be focused on because right now we're paying attention to, the train because it's now the sexy story which the media will talk about because now you have, a big mushroom cloud. So they're forced to talk about it. But what's the problem is they're going to stop talking about it at some point. And when this starts to become a health issue that people are dealing with, you know, what at that point? I mean, I had somebody ask me on the show the other day about this, and I was like, I don't really know what to tell them, honestly. And I said, well, all you can do is be honest. And I said, you're in a situation where you really can't afford to up and move.
Right.
But at the same time, can you afford what damage that's going to do to you and your family? And
Exactly.
so I'm like, I'm sorry, and I wish there was a way that I can help you out of the situation. I definitely can't, but you have to try to see. I advise anybody who's living in that area, if there's a way that, okay, maybe you have somebody that you can stay with that'll help you out for the meantime. I think it would be better in the short term to possibly maybe even borrow money to deal with getting out of there versus staying there and then possibly dealing with these long-term effects. I mean, there's so many incidents like this that are going on all over the place. This is a perfect example about the asbestos in the air in Libby, Montana. For me, I always go to Puerto Rico, what's been going on there with Monsanto. And the thing about that is this is something where you could say is, I would say it's egregious neglect, because they allowed this train situation to happen by neglect. And so, but that was something that was intentional, leaking these toxic chemicals into the ground. And, whether it's there, whether it's here in Montana, whether it's, these various, and it's not only this one in East Palestine, which is going on. There's so many of these that are going on all over the country, literally at the same time. I mean, this is no different than Flint, or what was going on in South Carolina, or the fracking that's been happening in Texas, what it's doing to the drinking water there. And I mean, everywhere you look, you're going to have lasting effects on all these people down the road. And what happens? Everybody just goes bankrupt because they can't afford to take care of all these ailments that they're dealing with now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why me and some of my comrades at M for All, we've been working with volunteer human rights lawyers to file an official complaint with the Human Rights Council of the United Nations about their neglect of leaving millions of people without health care. Because this is, it's never been done in history. Who knows what it'll do, but it needs to be brought to the country's attention that we are just done.
Yeah.
As far as, I'm sorry?
I was gonna say, and we're the only so-called first world nation that literally doesn't have some form of a medical system. I mean, and the thing about it is, I know America is so corrupt that, you know what, we can't propose it to them, as if they have a heart, and be like, you know what,
right,
this person over here is going to slowly die and bankrupt their whole entire family. You can't hit them with the emotion. So I would say what our argument should be, what I would try to, is show them the profit margin that they could make off of if everything was flipped. Okay, now you're not having to pay into the medical and stuff, or have medical plans through employment. There, you guys save some money. Would you do it now? I mean, sorry, be snarky.
Yeah, no, that's completely valid, because it seems like it is always up to money when it comes to the government.
Yep.
Andy, do you want to show the slide of what happened today? I don't even know how many of you saw this. So today,
and I'll read it
from East Palestine.
It says, Citizens Free Press. An explosion just occurred at a metal manufacturing plant in Bedford, Ohio, and mass casualties are being reported. Bedford is just south of Cleveland and about an hour northwest of East Palestine.
So this is like, again, infrastructure. This is, we could have had, a federal job guarantee, which actually could help us with the environment and with infrastructure. Biden, of course, couldn't care less. But a lot of these things could be avoided if they were actually updated and up to code, and not corroded and cheap. But like, what is your take when you see shit like this pop up? Are you like, this could have been avoided? What the fuck?
It's frustrating because everywhere you look, you're seeing these kind of things happen, and it's because you have somebody at the top who is only concerned with profits. Push, 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 hurry, hurry, hurry. And what you're having is you're having less people who are responsible for maybe ventilation. You're having less people who are responsible for, spelling the workers. So now maybe you have somebody who's working more hours. Excuse me, I'm not saying that it's necessarily the worker or that was the issue that happened, but you're leaving so many areas for breakdowns and catastrophes like this because they're just not doing simple maintenance. And I guess the maintenance part bothers me is because in the military, it was very key to do a lot of maintenance on things. If you do that little bit of minimal maintenance, you keep from these larger issues happening. So say, for instance, at this plant, some machine needs some kind of servicing, which needs to be done. But the plant manager is like, no, we just need to keep moving. Well, what happens when there's a problem with that? And now this ends up happening. What do you do then? So what if you're down, a couple of little, production drops by 10%. It's better production drop by 10% for a short amount of time and you be able to stay operational than just go, all gas, no brakes until everything falls apart. And that's what we're seeing. I mean, we're seeing it from this. We're seeing it with the bridges. We're seeing it with the levees. I mean, who knows? Hurricane Katrina might not have been as bad as it was if they would have listened to the Army Corps of Engineers. I mean, everywhere you look, you're seeing that greed in this country is leading to tragedies.
Absolutely. I could not agree more.
Sorry to interrupt. Hey, make sure everybody is giving her a like out there and a subscribe. If you're new in here, please give her a subscribe and a like.
YouTube took away over 3,000 of my followers. Yeah, so I'm not happy about that. I was a little fucking pissed when I saw that. So now I'm under 1,000 mysteriously after 6 years. And my Rockfin is like going on 5,000. So I don't know how, but I'm at like 900 something. So if you were subscribed, make sure you still are, because I'm getting DMs every day from people saying, I'm not getting notifications. I'm not subscribed anymore. So thanks, YouTube.
Yeah, they did that to me on my own channel. Like, because I have 3 channels. And so they unscribed me from one channel from another channel. And I'm like, I know for a fact I didn't unscribe to myself.
Oh my gosh, what a mess. Are you on Rockfin too?
Yeah, I mean, on my I guess the Political Matrix is the channel which I do more regularly, but I guess my main channel, my first channel would be Thinking with Young Morpheus, and that one's around 400. Political Matrix is getting close to 600, and my other one, Hebrew Apologetics, is around 350. On Rockfin, I've been on there for maybe about 4 or 5 months now, and we're approaching 3,000.
Awesome. See, Rockfin. Thank you, Rockfin.
Thank you, Rockfin, definitely. And I don't know if you noticed that they have a new CEO of
they
YouTube.
Do.
And things are going to get much, much worse.
I am very worried about that.
You do know who this guy is, right? You know who the guy is?
No.
I think his name is Neil Mohan. He is formerly one of the top people over at Google. And he left from Google coming over to YouTube. And so everybody who's been getting all these random strikes for videos, lucky out there, by the way, strikes from videos from like a year ago, 6 months ago, 7 months ago, he's the cause of all that. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant Rockfin.
No. I'm talking about on YouTube.
That's why I was like, no.
No. Rockfin, we're still good. It's
Oh,
just
okay,
you
good.
know, Rockfin. The only issues is occasionally there's some tech issues, but I think it's only been getting better.
Yeah, and you can't comment live, which is freaking weird. They
Yeah,
need
I
to change
mean, I wish that there was a way where from StreamYard I can put my Rockfin tweets or I wish I could put those Rockfin messages on the screen also.
I
So
know.
what we typically do is like me or Chris will try to copy and paste and put it into the into the StreamYard so that we can put it on the screen. But yeah, I wish and like so that I wouldn't have to was I have to set up on StreamYard for Rockfin and then go over to Rockfin and set it up on
Right.
Rockfin too. And I'm like, I wish you didn't have to do that. But
Sometimes
I
I
mean, that's,
forget.
yeah. Well, I forget to do it early. That's the problem. To put, everybody who follows me, they knows I'm bad about that. I'll put a show up like 2 hours before I go live.
Andy, do you want to put up the video I gave you of the music Apple Music employee strikes? I think it was Apple Music.
It's a rich man game, no matter what they call it. You spend your life putting money in his pocket. Ah, yeah.
So I just thought this was so cool because, like, I am such a firm believer in bringing music into anything because it just brings people together. And it was actually, I saw this today, and on my Facebook, I got a memory notification that 6 years ago today, I co-organized a Black Lives Matter dance party. And it was so freaking amazing. It was so fun. We stood outside the Harrisburg Capitol and blasted like hip hop and like all these old songs, and we were just dancing, and there was this little boy with like his Fisher Price drum standing there marching up the steps, and it was so amazing. So then I saw this and I'm like, yes. What do you think about actions that incorporate any kind of arts?
Well, as somebody who does a little bit of art myself, I mean, for those who know me personally, they know that I draw, I paint, I've done some murals, and then I play a couple of instruments also. So I played an alternative rock band some years back in high school. I played lead trumpet as jazz band and symphony and orchestra and stuff. So I definitely value music. Being that it's Black History, I like to remind everybody that a lot of the desegregation music played a big part in that because you had the younger generations that were listening to some of this older R&B, and they got tired of their parents telling them that they couldn't hang out with the Black musicians and the Black kids who were going, and so they started having more and more of this breaking down those dividing lines through music in particular. And so I definitely give a big shout out to the arts. I mean, and was it Jesse Jett, he does some amazing stuff with his music. And I just think music it's something that we don't understand completely, but it is a power that I feel is often underused.
Absolutely. And now that you say you're a musician,
Mhm.
now I might sucker you into doing my Musicians for Mutual Aid. So reminder people, March 2nd, we will have musicians on my channel, my solo channel, and be dropping links to people's mutual aid so you guys can donate directly to help people with housing or food or childcare or medical bills or whatever they need. I'll just be dropping those links as the musicians play. And hopefully we can raise some money for some people in need. So I may have to sucker you to come play.
I don't know. I might go get it. I might go buy me an instrument and come back out of retirement, play something. I don't know. I played the
Yeah,
trumpet,
that'd be rad.
tuba, drums. I started learning the electric bass a little bit, and also like we're going to, another shameless plug, but on Rockfin, me and Chris, we had not that long ago, we had like a little battle, like a little music battle for fun. And we were just kind of going back and forth with some songs. So we're probably going to do another one of those. I think it helps with the audience. It relaxes everybody with all the crazy stuff that's going on. That we definitely talk about a lot of stuff. And I know you do also. I mean, I think it's fun to just mix it up, and because you can't do that on YouTube because you got to worry about all the copyright strikes. We normally will go on Rockfin, and if you guys have what Rumble, or I don't know how these other platforms are, but I think it's good to just kind of confuse that in. And if I honestly advocate for more of you guys, if you're in certain areas, decide to try to see, well, is there a park somewhere that we can have something, and then invite, some of the people. You might be able to get Joy to come out in your area. Say you're in New York, some of the people who are in New York or in the Florida area. If you're out here in the LA area, I'll definitely show up to your event. I mean, I'm not think I'm some kind of bougie celebrity and too good for people. I'll go and sit there and hang out with about anybody. So, I mean, I feel like that's a good way to also help, bring a little bit more solidarity to people. If we all could actually stand face to face with different people, I think it softens some of this toxic energy which you see online. And I think a lot of times when you're tweeting stuff or you're writing stuff, the meaning or how you mean it sometimes doesn't always come through. So you can come across a little saltier than you really are. Sometimes when you're being sarcastic, your sarcasm doesn't necessarily come across. And so I just think that and also those people who like to, when they're wrong, just go silent. You got to address when you're right, when you're wrong, all those things. And I think it's just more healthy for all of us to engage in those types of ways.
Absolutely. And yeah, I love going to other people's events because it's not even half as stressful than it is for me.
Well, so you're an organizer. I just show up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, and then people will be like, can you speak? And I'm like, I'll just film. No, I'm good. I just want to be a spectator. But yeah, I'll be going to some special next week, but it's on the down low. I probably shouldn't have even said that. But yeah, there's I've got something cooking. Well, you can't tell everyone everything because then the popo,
I talk to plenty of people offline. I'm like, yeah, just hit me up and email. Here, I'll give you my number and we'll chit chat. And people, I've talked to handfuls of different people for like hours. And the people know that what you get with me on camera, I don't change very much. Once I get off, I'm maybe a little, I don't probably self-censor myself as much. And in this, believe it or not, I know some people hate the whole censorship thing, but being on YouTube, you have no choice. This is a definitely censored platform. I don't care how they want to square it. That's what they are. If you want to be, and so I figure I can still get across my message enough to you guys get what we're saying and can read through the lines. And I hope that my message is not completely being, watered down too much, that you guys can still understand this. But I don't change the content of what I'm saying. I might not say a word here and there. I might talk about the jump shot. Right. But I want, you know what I'm saying? I might feel like policies or that I don't agree with them. But, whatever it is, I don't necessarily, there's ways to say stuff without saying stuff. And so,
Oh yeah, for sure. Anyone who watches my show knows I may have to say "see ya" or something like that, and it's like, man, I can't even be legit, but it's like you gotta think about it. And yeah, it never used to be this bad, but it's getting worse and worse.
Well, you being around for 6 years, you know how it used to be. I used to love a lot of these platforms because they could just speak freely, and I've watched them. Some have just kind of, okay, well, I won't say this word, or I won't, they'll kind of, hey, you guys know what I really mean. But and then I've watched other ones where they've I don't even recognize these channels anymore. I mean, And I'll throw out one name drop, Kyle Kalinske. I don't even recognize this dude anymore. I'm like, who are you? I used to love your content. I can't, and it's a lot of them that are like that I just can't watch their content anymore because maybe it's 2020 was just a mass off moment for a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people where I can't do it with them anymore, or even if it's just not, I can't deal with them anymore. Just some people are just very inflexible. Okay, you're not with me on this one thing, even though 95% of the other stuff we agree with, I'm done with you. I hate you. I got called a proud boy by somebody who I used to have as part of my show and that we were kind of cool. And now he's basically saying I'm a racist. And it wasn't, and it's weird. He basically is tying me together with Proud Boys because he said that I agreed with something that had nothing to do with the main focal point of what Proud Boys were for. I was one of those people that I was against mandating.
Right.
And so since I was against mandating, that makes me a Proud Boy.
Well, guess what? I am V-word and I'm against mandating.
Yeah.
Because I am not a fascist. But anyway.
Yeah, I feel like,
I believe in personal choice.
Exactly. And that's where and so I watched a lot of the left get split. And this is what I tell people all the time. If the left ever really wants to get anything done, we got to stop being so thin-skinned. We got to let people like, okay, cool. Well, we're fighting Medicare for all. I get it. Guns are your thing, and I don't like guns. Let's leave that off the table. Let's deal with Medicare for all right now. And on every subject, we need to be that way. I tell people, how do you think that they got anything as far as the civil rights era? It was bull focused on, okay, let's work on this. Then they got that. Okay, let's work on this. Then they got that. Now, some of the other more difficult stuff, like some unionization, some of the better wages, some of those things, once they start pushing for those, that's when the real pushback came. But we got to be able to, target in on, okay, we need this, do this, and can't get so distracted with, well, you don't agree that we should have pineapple on pizza, so I'm done with you.
I think we need to seriously, and I get so much shit for this, so I'm going to say it again. I think we need to learn something from the Republicans who literally have such a coalition that they can be like, okay, let's go. And everybody just fucking gets in line because they're not like, no, not like that. And well, how do you feel about this issue? If we're going to meet up on this issue, I need to make sure, how are you registered? What do you label yourself as? Who gives a fuck? You believe in this? Come join us. That's how the so-called left should be, because that's how they get bajillions of people in a fucking crowd, because they are like about an issue and then they just fucking go. And that's how people in other countries are. They have an issue. They all get out in the streets, hundreds of thousands of people in the streets marching, because it's not about division. It's not about, but, to what degree do you support that? But do you support it on fuck labels, fuck all that shit? Just and YouTube channels, honestly, I have been so disappointed and quite frankly, very disgusted by a lot of the ones who started with genuine, promise of wanting to do, to make the world a better place, to sound like dorky, but and genuinely, and then seeing them do absolutely nothing but talk about other YouTubers. You have a platform and you're not saying anything of substance whatsoever. You're showing clips of Sam Cedar. If I wanted to see Sam Cedar, I'd go fucking watch Sam Cedar. I don't need you to commentate on commentation. So it's if people, with YouTube shows and a platform stuck to being productive more and interviewing people who they might not always agree with and having this kind of discourse, that would definitely help evolve. But I think the way we're going now, it's like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, it's going in a bad direction. Well, what's happening is people are letting the algorithm inspire their content, and they're feeling like, well, I know the algorithm, if I talk about this, even if I go back and start talking about this other stuff, if I targeted this and it's rewarding them for it, and I think people are following it. I tell you this, if I was able to do this full time, and I'll put this out there, like a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, if you were getting more of this, and I'm like, you guys know that I've been doing this for 3 years, like over 3 years. I pay for two different I pay for 2 of my stream yards. Every month I'm paying this money out. I've never been like, hey, well, here's my super chat. I mean, or my Cash App on my show. So I'm telling you guys, I do this because I care about this information getting to you guys. I'm not doing this for, because I want to be a millionaire off of this. If I was doing this full time, you guys would literally probably get tired of seeing my face, and you guys would hear so many different stories you never hear about, because I focus a lot on foreign policy. A lot. I cover stories and this is for your audience, which isn't familiar with me. I'll be covering, okay, what's going on with the integral parts of the race, which is going on in India, and what's going on with this person, the politics behind, like when Shinzo Abe got assassinated, the politics internally going on in Japan. We talk about the relationship with Japan and why their economy has been on the fritz for the last 40 years, or roughly about 40 years. We talk about a lot of these things, and I'm not saying that it's not important to talk about, domestic politics. I'm not saying that. I just know that from living overseas and going to a lot of different other countries, I know that Americans don't get a window into these topics. And since I have some insight into it, I try to bring you guys that, which I feel like is not being brought.
Absolutely. That is so important. And yeah, especially, and if you want to be part of an anti-war movement, you have to be knowledgeable about other countries. You have to be. It's not just, Claire Daly says America is the world's bully, and that could not be more true. But it's not just about our imperialism. It's about war all over the globe. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm so glad you joined me tonight. I've learned so much from you, and this was an incredible conversation. I would love to have you back again, and Chris. I feel like, it wasn't even necessary for me to bring clips and stuff, because we just had such a great conversation, which are the best kind of shows.
Well, yeah, I like our shows organic. I mean, I literally don't really tell Chris a lot. I'm like, hey, you got any topic you want to talk about? You're like, yeah, let's talk about this and that, train derailments and this. Okay, cool. I don't ask him, what do you want to talk about in particular on it, which angle you want to go. I'll tell him, hey, yeah, let's talk about, I'll be like, well, yeah, I got a couple of topics too. All right, I'll start working on the thumbnail. And then literally, like, once he sees the show post, he's like, oh, okay, so we're talking about AI pods. We're talking about automation today. And we're going to be talking about Tesla's exploding on the freeway. Okay, that's our topic. Let's go. And I normally, my guests either. That's a little secret. I don't tell my guests what we're going to talk about.
I never do. Well, you know that. I never, ever do. Because I want a genuine reaction. I like when I have guests on and they're like, oh my God, I didn't hear about that. It makes me feel good. I'm sharing something that people don't know, that they're going to learn something.
Well, that's another thing you have once you start getting different content creators together. You never know which conversations that might pop up and how things might go until you get them. Like Vegan says here, says super grateful at Thinking with Young Morpheus, join at Savage Joy Marie Man tonight. I feel this convo is overdue yet timely. Exactly. And when you start getting these different people to talk about the different subjects where we specialize in, Joy could go into a bunch of different areas on her activism that could illuminate my audience to perspectives and viewpoints which they don't necessarily see. And therefore, I have different viewpoints also. And so, by me bringing my perspective and hers, you get to hear different aspects of how we individually view things. So you never know. I might ask and talk about some stuff where you never get to hear Joy talk about some of these different issues.
Absolutely.
And you might not even know that, oh, wow, this is something she's knowledgeable, or, well, I agree with her on this. I didn't know I would agree with her on this issue. And so that's why I think it's kind of important to have these different conversations.
I could not agree more. And we have to do this again for sure.
Yeah. We definitely will. I try to tell myself that I'm probably the most accessible outside of my schedule. I mean, it's never like, well, I'm not going on that channel. It's normally like, well, you guys know I'm on the West Coast, so my schedule's a little funky. I work, basically at 8 to 5. And as long as they can deal with either having me on a little late or catching me on a weekend, then yeah, I'm normally pretty wide open.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Wednesday night, I have the co-founder of Food Not Bombs. Thursday night, I have my brother, Chuck Modi is coming back for the billionth time. Monday, I have the two gentlemen from East Palestine. March 2nd is the Musicians for Mutual Aid. I'm also going to be going live Tuesday next week, but I'm not going to say why. So yeah, I have lots of fun stuff coming up. So definitely smash the like, definitely smash subscribe to mine and to my guests. Definitely. Why don't you take a second and plug all of your stuff, your Twitter, your YouTubes, your Rockfins, all those things.
Okay, well, you guys can find me every Saturday night on the Political Matrix. That's me and Cy Lawson. We're normally, having fun with it. We have our subjects, but then we kind of go off the rail on occasion and talk about other stuff. I think Rick James came up and mud on couches the other night, so we throw a little humor in there also. Then I have my Been Thinking with Young Morpheus, which right now I'm currently on a strike. I should be back next week. And I'm trying to start doing a couple of little shorter shows, maybe, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour throughout the week, just random topics. So you guys don't have to wait all week to hear me say something. And then I typically have interviews on that channel. I have gotten one interview down, which I will be posting about it soon when I get a time set. And that I have an author who's coming on to talk about colorism that she grew up with facing in India. And so I definitely look forward to that. I always try to have a lot of different guests on there, whether we're talking, no matter what it is, if you're just talking about your business or whatever. So I'm trying to open that one up. So it's not always so centered on politics. Maybe we're talking music. I know I got an artist, which I'm going to have back there soon. And then we have my other channel where if you are more biblically minded or you have conversations or questions that you'd like to ask about the Bible, Hebrew Apologetics with Young Morpheus and Jose. And we go into the Bible and history of that time and prophecy and all kind of different things there. And then, of course, the Rockfin, the Political Matrix, which anything that comes up from my Been Thinking with Young Morpheus channel or the Political Matrix both get uploaded automatically to that channel. And then just type in Marcus Cage and you should be able to find me on most platforms. I am on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Real Marcus J. Cage on Twitter, or Marcus James Cage. And then I have all my links to my other ones. I actually have 4 Twitter accounts, and there is a reason. One is tied to the Political Matrix, where I kind of keep that one as clean and professional as I can. And I do stream also to those channels. The other one to the Been Thinking with Young Morpheus. The other one is to put all of my stuff that I put up from the 3 channels. And then the other one is a Twitter account that is tied to Hebrew apologetics. It is not a political one. So if you guys are following that one, looking for just, random politics, I don't talk any of that stuff on there. It's mostly just my faith. If you guys have any topics that you'd like me to talk about, I'm pretty open to listening to the crowd. So anything you guys want me to know about, you feel I'm not engaged on, or I should know about this, or a guest you guys want to try to, that I should probably try to have on the show, just, send me a message, and then I'll try reaching out to them and see what we can work out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Marcus. You are just amazing. I adore you to pieces. I'm so glad we did this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to tune in Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern for my next show. Thanks so much. Much love, everyone. And thanks, Andy, for doing the engineering tonight.
Yes, thank you, Andy.